Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Acid Capitalist Show, to the warm climes of St. Barts, where the markets, they whisper and the sea, it confesses. You may even hear the wind this week, because I'm recording from the master bedroom at Blanc Bleu. I'm sitting here, the doors are all open, and I'm surveying the endless blue sea. I am Hugh Hendry, and this week I am wrapped in market dissonance. I'm feeling like Roy Batty. Remember the replicant in Blade Runner? I've been pumping tweets out endlessly into the metaverse because people, I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I've watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. Poetic, you bet. But somehow it feels oddly prescient this week. The attack ships, trade routes ablaze, a cosmic battlefield of sovereign commerce, a flickering economic collapse at the edge of our economic understanding. The Tannhauser Gate, it now stands for those who refuse to see, those swallowing the media's revulsion at the great unraveling of unfettered trade. They think it's chaos. I think it's poetry. And this week, I'm lit up. My synapses are firing. I feel like I just woke up. You know, Rip Van Winkle, 100 Years style. And the people, the strange people in power, they're making sense. It's like a Talking Heads album. The US administration, the Treasury Secretary, Scott, Mr. Besant, he sounds like an acid capitalist. All I'm saying is, if this is a dream, people, please let me sleep longer. But let's return to St. Barts. With the air here currently in April, the air is heavy with Saharan sand. Because we're not just at the edge of the tropics, we're on the cusp of something stranger, more eclectic, electric, possibly divine. This week, I'm shooting the breeze, August 24 style. You heard me right. I feel like I found a VCR, a video cassette recording from an interview from last year's summer camp. Talking of which, drum roll. I do hope some of you, genuinely I do hope some of you will make it this year in August. I'll be joined by the one and only David Levinson, George Gammon, Brent Johnson, Jeff Snyder, Mike Green, Darius Dale, Tom Roderick, who knows, maybe even more. I'm inviting everyone. But, from a cabana at the Gypsy Beach Club, right next door to Nikki Beach. But last year, I want to share with you now a tale so serendipitous, it feels scripted, but I promise you, it wasn't. I want to tell you, it vibed itself into existence. Picture this. A wide-eyed, young female journalist. A barefoot macro heretic. The collision only in St. Barts. The kid, she came armed with nothing but denim cutoffs, a pencil, and the memory of a mixtape. She was sent from distant shores. A wannabe Rolling Stones journalist, a risk taker. She wanted to bag the guy who once whispered to markets, but now lounges like Gatsby meets Yoda, the Last Jedi stranded on a rock formation on the edge of the dollar's empire. Her mandate: to get the acid capitalist to talk. Imagine. Talk about what? About fear, about folly, about finding rhythm in volatility. And maybe, goddammit, talk about love. So what unfolded? Not an interview. I want to say an exhalation. Me, the acid capitalist, I riffed on cycles, turtles, and exile on Main Street. She scribbled notes on a napkin as I delivered a sermon on why being everyone else is perhaps the real mediocrity. It wasn't just her coming of age. It was the markets, maybe even mine. So, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't your average podcast. It's sunshine dripping through paradox. It's macro philosophy from the beach. It's barefoot and unfiltered. And in the background, always, there's the sea whispering something old, something oddly prescient. Because when you're surrounded by natural beauty like I am, the endless sky, these trade winds that I hope you can hear, the unrelenting sunshine, you know what happens? Your brain stops solving and it starts remembering. People call it art, attention restoration theory. But here in this show, it's just the vibe. The moment when speculative minds catch flickers of a distant future. So I beseech you, pour something cold. Put yourself a little bit closer to the speaker. Tilt your face towards the breeze, because somewhere between capital flows, tariffs, and cassette tapes, the story begins again. So let's do this. And don't forget to rate the show or send me a message. I get lonely on my little island. And remember, every week now, I'm publishing Boswellian Island Journeys on my Patreon and Substack accounts. You'll find me musing on markets as I'm musing on cocktails or walking down the delicious beaches of St. Barts. And with that, I'm going to wish you adieu. I'm going to invite you to kick back and listen to the tape from last year. I do hope you enjoy. A bisou from St. Barts.
We're here for the first ever interview for Check the Breeze with the one and only Hugh Hendry. Hugh, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
What's to say? I'm the acid capitalist.
Okay.
Former global macro hedge fund manager, living the life here in St. Barts. And for, I don't know why, but for sometimes I get glimpses of the future. I resonate and I vibrate and I see things. I'm the most unlikely finance guy. And I'm out to tell the story that finance doesn't have to be about linear lines and wearing suits and looking at spreadsheets, that it's like a blank canvas and we can think of it creatively. And so I'm having a camp here in St. Barts and I'm out there writing and I'm trying to say there's another way to make money. You don't have to be a douchebag.
What would you do differently in your hedge fund environment before versus if you were to restart one now?
What I did differently?
And with the environment specifically, like in your office or where it would be?
Oh, I wouldn't change any of that. So the conflict with I am very content and very satisfied that I achieved tenure Tenure. I had the great distinction and the great honor of managing a speculative book of capital of other people's money for 15 years. It was an activity that filled my jam jar was filled with pebbles of joy as opposed to sand of noise. But the eternal conflict was fitting in, like being what is the expression, a square peg in a round hole? And so from time to time, I found the money is conservative, and from time to time, I was compelled to be less me and more financially successful. And I have to say, I don't know if I ever really found a solution to that, but I think if I was to do it again, I'd be more resolute and confident in who I am.
About confidence, what's your strategy? What's your secret to your own confidence?
I'm a paranoid schizophrenic.
Okay.
So I quite literally, I hear voices in my head which lead me to take investments, to risk other people's hard-earned capital. And when I do that, I think, oh my God, I'm crazy. And I get really fearful. So I'm a paranoid schizophrenic. Now, the voices in my head would come from looking at, for some reason, again, so I said to you, I finished my hedge fund career. I had 15 years and it ended in 2017. I've been here ever since. And I don't have a Bloomberg terminal. I'm not tapped into the masters of the universe. You know, I'm not like reading investment books, etc. And yet somehow I see stuff.
You said that good managers know when to exit. When did you know to exit?
I think what we were talking about was one of the best questions you can ask speculators is, when do you know you're wrong? Mm-hmm. And you should have articulated, you should know when you're wrong. We've been discussing this week this tragic story of the death of Mike Lynch, the former chief executive of a British technology company, Autonomy, which was acquired by Hewlett Packard in 2012. And then Mike was subject to a very, very long-running legal dispute with U.S. Justice, who the claim from Hewlett Packard was that he had committed he'd fraudulently misrepresented the revenues of the business. He won that case almost like against the odds, and he found himself free. And 6 weeks later, he's on his super yacht off the coast of Sicily, and it sinks. He has a party to thank everyone who stood by him.
Yeah. And
6 of his close and tragically his young daughter, they die. And we were just reading. There was a quote from the chief executive of the boat company who manufactured the boat, and he said, "This boat is unsinkable." Right. So, and it's like, honey, your boat is 55 meters below the sea level on the seabed, and you're telling me it's unsinkable, right? So I don't think he's articulating when he knows he's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's a kind of metaphor that I see constantly repeated. It's an emotional energy discharge where people buy things because I call it the conceit and arrogance of well-formed arguments. They kind of logically construct narratives of the future, and they're like, wow, I'm going to make lots of money, but they're buying things that are going down, so they're on a sinking boat. So this whole notion of exit or knowing when you're wrong is like when your feet, your ankles, when your knee, when your waist gets wet, start swimming, right? Otherwise you're going down. So there's
you talk a lot about being like spiritual aligned and emotionally aligned. Did you ever find that you would use your spiritual or emotional senses when making investments or decisions?
I mean, what is spirituality? It's a vexed subject. I mean, I am
the turtle.
The turtle, yeah. That's the turtle.
Oh my God. Can we pick that up?
Only in St. Barts.
Are you picking that up? I guess.
So on a spirituality perspective, I was always, my role model was, are you going to hold?
I guess I can hold them.
George the turtle.
I guess we could put that question on pause. What made you fall in love with
This
with
turtle.
the island and the turtle? I guess we could just.
Don't put him, he's going to bite my toe. What you doing?
I thought you're not scared of anything.
Put him back down. Let him be.
Anyways.
Let him be free in St. Barts.
They're kind of actually speedy.
Yeah.
Okay, bye, buddy.
Give him a carrot.
Aww. Oh my God. Ah. Okay.
So two things: spirituality, and I was going to say that I, as an investor, I was an existentialist, and the three tenets of my belief, and I accept everyone has their own, but my operating system was that I believe that God is dead, that there are no rules, and you're on your own. Okay, and an extension of that would be that I was the author and the architect of all of my failures. It wasn't on someone else. It wasn't the investment bank. It wasn't I wasn't unlucky. It was me. Mm-hmm. And likewise, I was the author and creator of all of my gains. So, but it's on me, right? There's not a divine spiritual power that's going to redeem me. Now you asked, in terms of why St. Barts?
Yeah.
I mean, the obvious answer is get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, like St. Barts is the most dope place in the world.
What made you fall in love with the island?
So it's, where are we? We're in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I hate the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, it's another tenet of my universe. I'm always drawn to paradox and irony.
Okay.
So here I am. I'm devoted my life to living in the Caribbean. I hate the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So explain, this is the most dope place ever because I'm living essentially in Europe.
I feel like I'm having a Europe somewhere I never had.
Yeah, exactly. This is the best part of Europe. There's no crime. There's no tax. There's great infrastructure. There's beautiful ladies, beautiful people, beautiful restaurants, beautiful beaches. It's small. And between the end of December and the end of March, some of the most successful people in the world across all industries and creative endeavors, they come here. It's a pivot, it's a network, and it's a very powerful place. But in terms of reaching out and coming here, I devoted my life. This is my principal residence from about 2015 because I was emotionally and physically exhausted from investing. And what I want to explain by that is your brain there's no window at the back of your head, like looking out and like surveying what's happening. Your brain is dependent on these voices in your head, these messages, telling it, giving it a report on what's happening. And for me, I was always contrarian and against the grain. I just wasn't the other guy. Yeah. And so when people made money, I lost money. When people lost money, I made money. But predominantly people make money. And so a lot of the time I would be saying to myself, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I am this was Mortal Kombat. They're coming to get me. This is the end of my life today. And my brain would flood me with, the fight or flight. And you would be flooded with what are inherently, rather toxic natural chemicals within the body. And so I had to come to a place of great natural beauty. And there's something about great natural beauty which helps the mind heal. So I'm healing.
If you could describe St. Barts in one word, what is the word that you would choose?
I'm going to use the word serendipity because my journey to this island had pivot points. And I can only describe those pivot points as being events where it's hard to explain, but it was serendipity. Like good things happen. Like did good things happen because of the force of my nature, my character. I made them happen. But at the time, I was like, what the fuck?
Did you have a dream growing up? Something specific? Because when I first met Hugh, when we were on Mercer Street in New York, I thought for sure, like, I was sitting beside, like, some sort of AC/DC, I don't even know any, all that hip or that rock and roll. I was like, shit, I'm sitting beside a guitarist, a drummer. And I said, like, I didn't say, like, retired rock star. I said, like, resting rock star. Because you were kind of giving me, like, oh, he's probably just, like, taking a break right now, or like, he's a pause. I thought for sure something like that. So I was wondering if, like, music or something like that was maybe a dream growing up.
Music is an obsession.
It's a love language.
I mean, AC/DC, I'm the fake Bono.
Yeah.
So when I was, we've been doing the summer camp, the investment camp, and we're on stage, with about 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And I went back into the character who used to manage money.
Yeah.
And my friend here, this is the audience, Alex. I'm kind of like, you can see, I was a nightmare to work with because I can't sit still. I've got Tourette's.
Yeah.
I walk around, I have my shoes off, and I interrupt people. I look at my phone. I'm like, I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
I was too much of a disruption to the office.
Yeah.
I worked from home.
With
Before remote was the thing.
Yeah.
And I would come in maybe late afternoon, and I'd come in because the voices in my head were compelling me to do something. And I'd come in to challenge my investment team. I'm like, I'm crazy, but I just had this crazy idea. The crazy idea would be driven off of, I would sit and watch hours of charts of the corn price to the Nvidia price to the Japanese yen to, Indian 10-year bond yields.
Yeah.
And I thought I could see patterns. And I tried to configure that with my understanding of how the world operates. And I'd conceive of something. But at the time, so I was spending like 6 hours in a dark space with these flashing charts. And I was using I still use a system which was conceived and invented in the 17th century by Japanese rice traders. And I listened to music. In fact, so much was my joy for music. And I had a revelation back in 2005 that I became one of the largest investors in EMI. EMI is a huge publisher.
Okay.
And it had, recorded artists. It had the Beatles, it had everyone. And there was a time when I had that investment. I had Warner Music. I was kind of tight with Edgar Bronfman Jr.
Okay.
And we were trying to get Edgar to take over EMI. EMI was run by Suits. And EMI, in my world, was trading like 4 standard deviations from my perception of reality. What are standard deviations? The perception of life is that we have something called a normal distribution. You'll see like a bell curve.
Yeah.
And the bell curve is a representation of the probability of events or the clustering of occurrences.
Just to get through some of these, did you ever have a mentor or someone that, said something to you that kind of stuck with you when, like you're doing things that are out of the norm, but people are trying to kind of keep you in your box? Was there anything that was said to you or someone that supported you that kind of helped you fly out of that box?
Yeah, for sure. Again, so that would take us back to pivot points and this notion of serendipity, which brought me here. And it was the worst day of my life, which turned into the greatest day of my life. I had moved to London. I was working in London for a big bank, and I was hating it. And the guy who hired me, I thought he was a moron.
Yeah.
And on this fateful day, my boss was feeling poorly, and he called in sick, and he asked if I would attend a lunch and take notes on another portfolio manager. Yeah. And I thought, I can't fall any lower here. Yeah. I'm now the guy that takes notes on money, like the people I want to be, rather than being the guy. Yeah. I'm the guy taking the notes. Yeah. And I was furious. But on that day, I met my mentor, and was it Lennon and McCartney? we vibe really, really high. And at the end of the lunch, he suggested that I come to his house that night and have supper and discuss the world more. And it was just back and forward, you know. It was really electric. And at the end of this evening, he said, "You're one of us. You're a pirate." Here we are in the Caribbean. "You're a pirate, and I want you to join." And I was like, "Join what?" And it was a hedge fund. I didn't know what a hedge fund was. And this was in the year 1999. And that day changed my life. And again, it took me here. Now, so I joined with him, and I have to say that there are many forces of nature within us, demons and good things. And he was a brilliant iconoclastic thinker. But I'm using past tense, not because he's dead, but because his reputation has been destroyed by his awful behavior. You know, he was a touchy-feely person. He intimidated people. And he's been taken down for that. I do not make excuses for that. But all I can say is that there are many forces, and he was my finishing school in terms of the education of being a speculator. And to answer your question, my dear, he said to me, the three most powerful forces in being a speculator, or indeed to enjoy a full life, you've got to practice, you've got to be playful, you've got to be curious, and you've got to be mischievous. And if you put them together, you're going to be okay. You're going to vibe high.
Love it. Okay, we have a few left, but just to kind of take like a quick break, I had a Bank of America sales and trading associate that went to my university, and I asked him if he could send me a question, and he wanted to know what you think the meaning of life is.
What's his name?
Nicola. Do you know?
Meaning of life?
Yeah. Might have to cut that out. I'm not too sure if he's...
You only got 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's
Your
do
bank, so the most relevant friend you have in finance, and that's his question.
That's his question. And he's the one that replied.
Tell me about the meaning of it. Okay,
I know.
What did he offer?
That's what he offered. He had just replied because Hugh, when I first met Hugh, he told me to be more courageous. So I kind of just threw him on my Insta and quoted it. And I said -HH. And I've kind of just I've thought about it every day. And he replied and said, I watched his Bloomberg thing this morning. Like, how do you know him? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I'm going to interview him. Like, give me one question, like anything. And that's what he asked.
Okay. So again, if we go back to my mentor.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by this guy because he was larger than life. He was physically large. He was intellectually large. Like I say, he was intimidating and a bully, but I'm a tough guy. I stood my ground. And the thing that I was amazed, the thing that fascinated, the flaws fascinated me. But the thing that I thought about most was on his tombstone. And of course, this kind of is a bit double-edged now, given he's subject to,
When you die, what do you want people to remember?
Well, indeed. Well, so I was thinking when he dies, what it would say on his tombstone. And I'd look, and I knew what it would say on his tombstone. And I was like, I can't see the words on my tombstone. I can see his. And you know what? I like those words. And it would say, this motherfucker enjoyed every single day. Literally. Now he took it to excess. I'm not looking, to cross lines with anyone, but if you should leave this life with a blank tombstone and you should ask your closest and dearest to write the tagline. And I'm hoping and praying and saying, HH, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a bit heavy, but there lies a guy that enjoyed life. And I have to say that's a new thing. I am the most joyous, I'm the best friend you can have today, but that was not always the case. And so, the meaning of life is it's gone in a flash.
Yeah.
And the other meaning of life, and this was actually, so it ends up being a good question, actually. Well done. What was it called again? Nicholas.
Nicola, yeah.
Yeah, Nicola.
With a K.
speculation, you spend all of your time procrastinating and kind of trying to examine and largely living in the future. Conceiving. I was trying to conceive of contentious narratives that could go on and become an accepted belief system in the future. Yeah, I've been kind of accumulating US Treasury bonds, like long dated, for the last 18 months. And that was profoundly contentious as a posture. And I've got another 12 months, and I think over the next 12 months, and I can just see the belief system is beginning to change a little bit. And I think my contention will then become accepted. But to the point of the meaning of life, make sure you don't devote too much of your life and you find yourself stranded in the future, because now it's all about now, and now should be blissful.
I love it. Okay, last question. Okay, so pick a number between 1 to 5. And I guess just for viewers, Hugh, I guess, would you call yourself a hotelier with Maison Blanc Bleu?
I just call myself a happy person. I'd call myself the Great Gatsby. You were at the party last night. Yeah.
You were. Someone actually mentioned that. They said, he's kind of like Gatsby. And I was like, it was Eric. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, there's
DJ too.
a hell of a DJ. I think there's a lot of potential for the future of gatherings.
Yeah,
which
well,
is
we have
ultimately
those gatherings.
community.
But hotelier, so I have like a Great Gatsby beautiful house.
Yeah.
I'm gloating, but it's a fact. You've been there.
You can't say anyone that has stayed there, or
it's a billionaire type place.
Yeah.
Very successful people and Hollywood people and sports stars and everyone.
would you welcome anyone, or is there anyone specifically that you kind of wouldn't let stay?
I mean, you don't want douchebags,
Yeah.
but it's a very, very expensive property. And like, if you pay the money, you can stay and we'll take care of you. But so the villa's for rental, so hotelier or whatever. But it's a beautiful house.
So pick a number 1 to 5.
Like I've done that.
What?
I did that.
Sorry, what number did you choose? What 1 to 5? Tell me.
Why?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Before I commit myself.
It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And what are you going to do with that number?
It's just a question. It's nothing wrong.
Okay.
There's no meaning to it.
Okay. What is the meaning of life? Number 3.
Okay, 3. So if you could have 3 people, dead or alive, stay at Maison Blanc Bleu with you for a week, who would you choose?
Jesus.
And it can be anyone, dead or alive. 3 people.
Again, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say, so what's on a similar wavelength, and we were talking about being trapped in the future and time. My life is my professional life's been about professional time travel.
Yeah.
Seeing the future and coming back, and then investing in today. So if we could invent a time machine and I could go back, and I could go back and find these 3 people to hang with, so you think of the wide expanse of time, how far back we could go and how rich and diverse human history is. I'd step into that time machine and I'd step out almost immediately, because I'd be going back to 1970 and I'd be going back to that Villa Nelcott in the south of France, where the Rolling Stones recorded Exile on Main Street. If you offered me any point in time where I could have spent a day, an hour, a week, I think it would kill me if I'd been there for a month. I'd be there and I'd be vibing, with the Rolling Stones. So
you would say that's who you would invite to?
I'm giving you a villa. I'm giving you a French location, and I'm giving you there are 4 members of the band, so it'd be there. Yeah.
Okay. I guess last question would be, if the entire world was watching right now.
I thought they were.
They are. But if there's a message that you could say that would create more of a sustainable world, what would you want everyone to know?
Don't believe the hype. I love this song. Do you hear that? It's like with the camp that we're hosting here, extraordinary people have come And I was speaking to one of the extraordinary members last night, and he told me something extraordinary. So the whole global warming, you were talking about making life sustainable and reducing our footprint and preserving this wonderful place. Did you know that when you let's see if I get this right, raising the temperature, the more the CO2 that we have in the atmosphere, the less light that plants need to flourish. And with the advent of the rise in CO2 emissions and atmospheric levels, the planet is becoming greener. It's supportive. And if the global temperatures rise by, I think he was saying 2.5 degrees, the Saharan desert would no longer be a desert, owing to having all that carbon in the atmosphere. So life is complex, and you should challenge. And I'm not saying, hey, all I am saying is, whatever you say to me, I will not accept. I will consider it, and I'll go back and I'll reflect, and I'll try and find flaws in it before I accept it.
Okay. I guess we'll get you in here for one question. I'm going to set a timer for like 1 minute. Okay. And you have to pitch your idea with you were talking about with Tom at the table over there here in St. Bart's, what you wanted to do. Okay. So you have to pitch it in 1 minute to see if he would.
We might do an introduction.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I also think I'm from the future, not as far as Hugh. Hugh has seen everything in the distance. I'm just starting to see glimpses. He does that to people. It's very infectious. You start seeing things, images, visions. And the vision I had for St. Bart's was a hookah lounge. And it would be wonderful. You would see the sea. There would be clouds wafting. People would be talking. The thing that got me interested in hookah lounges is when I was in the Middle East, it's very popular there as a cultural hub for people to get together and talk. And
Power of conversation.
That's right. And nicotine is an amazing drug. It allows people it stimulates the mind. It gets people talking and thinking. And the important thing that I learned is a lot of times people will hold back and they won't say what they're thinking because they're not sure or they don't want to offend. And one thing nicotine does is it kind of gets you to talk. It gets you to put it out there. And I find that when you talk and when you put it out there, that's when ideas start to mesh and come together. Yeah. And when you have people, we're similarly minded coming and doing that and providing their different perspectives, that's when magic happens. And, if I can piggyback off the meaning of life thing, I think the question itself is absurd because it's missing a component, which is, what is the meaning of life for you? And people think that there is some great meaning that everybody can find and that's it, right? And we should all strive for that thing. But the reality is, the more I talk to people, the more I start to see the future. What I see is that everybody has their own meaning. And when those things come together, that's when we create paradise. Somebody starts a hookah lounge. Somebody runs an incredible hotel. Somebody, does media or teaches. And all of that in combination and in concert is the greater meaning. And
having all of those things close, so we're all kind of close together.
I love it here. St. Bart's is something special.
So again, I think I've owned and invested in just about every company in the world. So when you say what do I call it? The hookah lounge. Hookah lounge. There is one company which has 85-90% global market share of supplying the tobacco for them, and it's quoted, I think, in Jordan, and has a big fat dividend yield. It's been a spectacular stock. But here we are in St. Bart's, and we're talking about hookah tobacco in Jordan, and that is, I think we're touching on that. That's the life is just friggin' extraordinary. And again, it's curious minds that are capable, because they're mischievous and they're playful, and that's how you find stocks in Jordan.
It's beautiful.
Acid capitalism.
Acid capitalism. Is there anything else you want to say? Any questions? anything that you would tell me in general, if I was never going to see you again, what's something that you would tell me? Or just knowing me as a young person, like 23, like what's some wisdom or something that you think that I should know that would guide me?
The nothing is static, and there's a cyclical pattern in nature and life. So when I was 23, every asset was cheap housing, stocks, and no one owned them. And today, you being 23, every asset in the world almost is overvalued.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to buy them. And so again, the central message of like my asset capitalism is just don't be the crowd. The return on being everyone else is mediocre. But it can be lonely, and you're going to have people who are going to challenge you, but find your identity, and glow and glimmer with it, and it will take care of you. So, but it's hard being 23 today, in terms of, it feels like the economic system is really stacked against you. It's never been, life's always tough, but this feels like really, really hard in terms of accumulating wealth at these levels. So just, markets are like an American football stadium. There's like 100,000 people and they're all standing up and you're sitting down.
Okay, can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
I like that.
So I'm probably, sometimes people say I look younger than I am, so I'm a bit older than you.
So young. Okay, they don't say that to me.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I'll take it. But I would say that if you find yourself, and I especially notice this with people that are much younger, is if you find yourself in a crowd, whether it's in an idea or a place, and it feels crowded, double check your priors, double check your assumptions. What I find is a lot of times crowds tend to attract groupthink.
Yeah.
And that can be infectious in the wrong kind of way. And I know young people love to kind of come together and vibe in a similar way, but and that's great, and that's beautiful and magical, and it's all, I love being at festivals, I love being around people. But when it comes to ideas, you really want to feel like you're having to challenge people, or people are challenging you. There's an old, I don't know who the quote's attributed to, but somebody was worried about having their good ideas stolen. And his friend told him, don't worry, if the idea is good, you'll have to force it down people's throats. So if it's an idea that people are stealing, it may not be that good of an idea.
I also heard someone say, no one can kind of do the idea the way that you can, so just like go with it and do it. Okay, yeah, like that's pretty much all I had to say. I do have a love section on my page, but I'm not going to go too deep into anything. But I just want to know, have you ever written a love letter before?
Yes. I've got 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. And
Okay, love.
we have
That's Brandy.
beautiful tradition whereby on someone's birthday in the family, each member writes them a poem, and we have dinner, and then we all recite the poems, and it's a recital of love. And it's a hard thing. Oh my God, I got to write this damn thing. Yeah. It's the most joyous and beautiful thing, and you're delivering pure love. So 3 times a year, I write love letters. And then that makes me think of Elvis Costello, and I write the book.
Yeah.
And this amazing ways. What are the lyrics? Got us back to that Victor Niederhoff. But every day I write the book. Chapter 1, I fell in love. Chapter 1, we didn't really get along. Chapter 2, I think I fell in love with you. So, boom, done.
I love it.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Zoom, we've got a DJ deck now to use. Let's go.
Okay.
I wanna crash the game, break the norm in my Yes, I'll find my form, skiff with risk, vibe the future. Gonna listen to voices in my head. It may feel bad, it may feel bad. Gonna lift the razor, gonna find the edge, gonna hear the truth, gonna spill the beans. My paranoia would never believe. It may feel bad, we're on this island, that's how we're gonna live the razor, find the edge. My paranoia, you never accept. I wanna scream at the void, never scream right back. Gun so kicks my back in track. Gonna